Guys, this is Yoda. This will be my Stonevault in-depth guide. We're going to go over one of my runs that we did most recently. It's a 17. It took quite a few attempts, so we found many ways to wipe, and I'll be sharing all of them with you here in this video. Alright, so we're about to start Stonevault. You just got there, you built some resources, pull timer, you're ready to go. Wait! We forgot something. So, there's two things in the Stonevault that you should coordinate before the key even starts. So that's the first boss, how you're going to play the first boss, and Skarmorak. So for the first boss, there's a couple things you need to coordinate. The first thing is, how are you going to play the dispels? So the first boss, when he does his tank buster, puts a pretty big dot on you, and then when that dot gets dispelled, you have 50% damage reduction for 6 seconds. So for a lot of tanks, they prefer that dot to be dispelled right before the tank buster hits, so the next tank buster is basically free. However, as a paladin, you actually don't have that good self-sustain. I mean, you can Word of Glory yourself, obviously, and you have some other forms of self-sustain. But from what I've found, if you have that dot on you for the whole fight, pretty much, then it's really easy to go out of mana on the first boss, or if you don't drink before. So as a paladin, I actually prefer to get dispelled immediately on that boss, and you'll see how I play that boss later when we play the video. You also need to figure out how many of the boulders you're breaking on every single set of lines. The way my group does it is every time there's lines out, we break one boulder, and we assign one person to break it. It's usually the evoker. So we do 1, 1, 4. Every time there's lines, we break one boulder, because it's pretty easy for a disc to heal like one dot with no cooldowns. And then when the boss does the big AoE, we slam all our defensives, and we survive the big hit into the 4-stack dot. All our defenses are getting massive value there, so that's how we play that. So that's the first boss. Then on Skarmorak, you need to figure out who is collecting the orbs. If you're playing our comp, which is this right here, then the DK is collecting all of the orbs. Most of them as DPS go. I think we go 7 DK and 3 for the priest. And the shaman is responsible for breaking the shards. Depending on your group, you can do many different configurations. Shaman can even break the shield and collect orbs. Usually if you have a DK though, they're the best orb collector because the orbs increase your healing and damage to shields. So the healing part is really good for DK because it just means every death strike is full health no matter what. So that's how we do that. But if you're zoning into like a Stonevault of a real key level, make sure that's assigned before the key starts. Otherwise, Skarmorak is going to be a major issue. And if you don't assign the first boss as a tank, then the first boss can also be a major issue. All right, so that's the pre-key stuff. Now we'll actually start the key. So as a paladin, we have pre-bulwark running, so you should have every key as a lightsmith. Also have 1 holy power, and I'm gonna be extra safe here on this first gather. This first gather is very dangerous. I actually lost the key where I just died instantly on the second pack, so I play really safe now. I build 2 holy power from 1, so we have 3 holy power before we start. For Shield of the Righteous, so I'm going to Avenger Shield this pack, Shield of the Righteous the next pack, and then Consecrate it. So we have aggro on the first 2 packs, like if my shield hit these and something hit these, so no packs are going to be running at my healer. This third pack, you can be a little bit more lax. If you don't get a reset, I just walk through it in Blessed Hammer, which doesn't always hit everything. However, I'm about to push Divine Toll, so these will most likely be aggro to me anyway. I tag the next pack. If you're not pulling this pack, then the pack pull is very easy, but we find that speed-wise, it's much easier to tag this pack. So in a pull like this, there's double Golem AoE, and there's literally 7 invaders. These invaders are very dangerous. They put out these curses. Normally, if you have to sit this curse for the full duration, it's like major cooldown or just get spam healed, which he's playing Disc Priest, so he's not spam healing you. But in a pull like this, we have Lust and all cooldowns, like offensive and defensive and AG. So our plan is we only decurse if you have multiple of these curses. And everyone else is just surviving, like with AG, all defensives, bubble, sack, etc. That's one of the reasons I used bubble early here. I wanted to bubble early so I could sack the shaman. We were playing with spell warding on the shaman at some point, but once I realized I could just bubble sack him, spell warding is just for me, basically, for the AoE hit. These golems AoE hit hurts a lot, even on a tank. One other thing, this AoE hit has so much short range. I think it's like 40 or 35, I forget which. But if you're playing a ranged character, you can outrange it, except if you're playing Evoker. You can just outrange it the whole time while doing damage. So that's how we play this pack. We basically just roll defensives the whole time. We bubbled early into Guardian, into Ardent, and then if the pack was still alive, then we would ask for Pain Sup, but the pack is mostly dead, so we don't. The next pull we do, we're going to bring the golems 2 golems to the side here. We pull these 2 golems first because these are the 2 golems needed to spawn the boss. If you don't do this, then when you're like done killing them, you'll have to wait for the boss to spawn, which is not efficient. I'm bringing them over here to the side here so that we can LOS. The ground pound actually just hurts a ridiculous amount on high keys. I'm like surviving it with 100% spell block plus rolling cooldowns. The Evoker is surviving it by LOSing. The Priest is ranging it. DK is, he's a DK. He just lives whatever. And our Enhance is either getting sacked or LOSing. Once one dies, we pull the other pack in. Note that there are no curses left in these pulls. We got rid of all the curses at the start. That way we can just focus on DPS and lining on these 2 golems. If you're fighting these with no cooldowns, they're actually really scary, so it's better to have no curses, in my opinion. Also of note, there are these Ghastly Void Souls. The first pull had 2 of them, now there's 2 more. Usually as a paladin, if you want to solo, you can set one to your focus and then target the other one with your Avenger's Shield, and you can solo the fears in the pack. With our group, we just have one person on each fear, and I'm like tab shielding of arcing voids to reduce damage we take, but it's not necessary to do that. Alright, so on to the first boss. So you'll see how I play this. Oops, I pushed the wrong button. We're going back to the boss. Okay, on to the first boss. So we do good drops here. Now remember when we said at the beginning of the key, we're coordinating how many we're breaking. I'm leaving the boss here specifically so that there's an easy angle right here to break the first one. Usually, honestly, you won't need to move the boss, but here it is kind of important to like pay attention to it. Also, this first tank buster, we're using Ardent Defender. Ardent Defender basically just trumps every tank buster in the game. You cannot possibly die through Ardent unless you're like already low and the tank buster hits really hard, which pretty much never happens. So Ardent survives every tank buster, and I insta dwarf the debuff, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. So my healer doesn't have to dispel. And the next one will be Bubble. So far we've had Ardent and Bubble, both of which are basically impossible to die through. When I Bubble, I also sack the Shaman, so it's like Bubble sacks, good energy. Here I'm moving around just because of my Egg Trinket. The next one is going to be Ardent's back again. So I have pretty high haste in my Paladin. If you're like in a gearing situation, or in a lower key, or like your character just doesn't have that much haste, then you might not have Ardent up here. If you don't have Ardent up, then you can use Tear plus Lay on Hands. My cooldown rotation does not require Eye of Tear. Eye of Tear is mostly for later. You can use Tear plus Lay on Hands for the armor buff, and you will survive. If you're in comms with the healer, you can also ask for Pants Up. I am going to just randomly use Tear and Lay on Hands on not this, like not filling in for like late Ardents, because I know I can just ask my healer for Pants Up if I need it. But if you have lower haste, or you just get unlucky with Divine Purpose, then you may need to save Tear and Lay on Hands for this one for Ardent if you don't get it back. So this next one is going to be Bop. I bought myself while mid-cast of this, then taunt him, and then before the taunt falls off, we cancel the Bop. So far it's been Ardent, Bubble, Ardent, Bop, right? So none of those are possible to die through in the Tank Buster. That's why we take the Dispel insta. Next we have Ardent back. So it's basically Ardent and then an immunity, then Ardent, then another immunity, etc. You prioritize Bubble when you're doing immunities because it has lowest cooldown. Also of note, we're playing short Bop here. We have Bop plus the extra talent that makes Bop 1 minute lower. Plus we also have a talent on the right side, Uther's Council, which makes Bop lower again. So far it was Ardent Bop, Ardent Bubble. Or sorry, it was Ardent Bubble, Ardent Bop. Now it's going to be Ardent Bubble again. Bubble with sack. Then it'll be Ardent on the next one. Actually, I think it wasn't back here. Hold on. Okay, yeah, we actually had to get creative here. Or maybe we didn't have to get creative. Hold on, let's go back. Okay, so it was Ardent Bubble. Then Ardent is actually back here, but I think I wasn't sure or something if it was going to be back. I honestly have no idea what was going through my head here. I just choose to use Guardian for fun, I think. This should have been Ardent. Also, I use Guardian with Tear. I don't know why. But this should have been Ardent first, and then Guardian second. But we use Guardian first and Ardent second for some reason. I think I need PS on this one. Yeah, so that error actually causes me to need Pants up here instead of having Ardent up. mistakes. Anyway, that's how you play that boss while getting insta-dispelled. So for the next pull, we're playing this Despoiler with the pack across. This Despoiler has a very, very dangerous tank buster called Shadow Claw. You need to have a cooldown for every single one. I think in lower keys you can probably get by with 100% spell block. But for this key level, you definitely need to have a cooldown plus 100% spell block, unless that cooldown is like Ardent or Bubble or something. Because Shadow Claw, maybe it won't kill you alone, but this mob is being fought with a bunch of other mobs that hit the tank. So if you have nothing, you will die. Also, I accidentally did a trick here. If you kite this mob for long enough, when you pull him, he has like Void Outburst and Shadow Claw both kind of low cooldown when he's pulled. So if you cut him for a little bit, he'll cast Void Outburst before Shadow Claw. You'll know that I actually wasn't planning to do this. I actually pushed Ardent thinking he would Shadow Claw me, but he decided to Void Outburst anyway. After the Void Outburst, it's always another Shadow Claw, so we have Bubble for that. After Bubble, I think it's tier plus... I would be surprised if I didn't ask for Paints up here, actually. So yeah, it's tier plus Paints up on the next one. Eye of Tear, by the way, is by far your weakest cooldown. Anytime you're using Eye of Tear on something, try to have like one other thing, like either Healer External is probably a little bit much, but even though this pack hurts a lot, so that's why I asked for Paints up. But like Barrier or a Power Word Shield or your Bulwark or Rescue or something to pair with your Eye of Tear or Lay on Hands even. So that's this pack. If you had got another one, by the way, it would have been Spell Word or Ardent into Spell Word. There's also 2 invaders here. Remember what we said earlier about the curses. If you have to sit them in a dangerous pack, then it's very dangerous for you. We only have 1 decurse, so I think he's decursing, and the other one we're just hoping is like Cod or Dwarf, or it's on a DK or something. Alright, next we have this pull. This pull has been giving a lot of pugs trouble from what I've seen. So I'll wait for it to get grouped before we talk about it. So in this pull, there are 3 Voidbound Howlers and 3 Turn Speakers and 2 Curse Mobs. So the main way that you can fail this pull is by the Voidbound Howlers going off. So if I was playing a Paladin in a pug, then my main goal would be making sure these Howlers don't go off. So I would set 1 to focus, then target the other 2 with Avenger's Shield. So I would like have this triangle on my focus, and then have X and Square both like, I'd have my eye on them basically. I would see that Square is casting first, and I'd target it with Avenger's Shield. Stop it, and then I would know that X is casting next. So after I interrupt this, I would start targeting X. Then after I stop X, I would target Square again, and then etc. And I just keep my focus on triangle the whole time. So that's how you would solo all 3 Howlers as a Paladin. However, now that is what I would do in a pug scenario. This is not a pug scenario. This is my main group that we're playing keys with. So the way we set this up is that all 3 of the DPS have a Howler on their focus kick. And me, as the Paladin, I'm going to be doing what I just talked about, but I'm doing it for the speakers, the turn speakers. That way our healer never gets silenced. No one basically ever gets silenced unless I messed up or I get unlucky. One other note about this pack, there's 2 invaders. They put out the curses. Remember how I said how dangerous the curses are? Your DPS should be focusing down on Invader to make this pull easier while you have a Paladin. So once again, in a pug scenario, I'm setting focus to 1 Howler and then stopping the other 2, just like tabbing between them as they cast, and I use shield. In this video, we have an organized group, so they're setting focus to the Howlers, and I'm doing that thing for the speakers. I also didn't use the set focus technology, so I'm actually tabbing between 3 speakers, but it's way easier if you just set focus and then tab between 2 of them. Survivability wise, this pack doesn't hurt that much since there's no Shadow Claws. However, the auto attacks, especially from the Howlers, actually hurt a decent amount, and from the Elemental, so just kind of roll cooldowns. I would say I'm kind of just YOLOing cooldowns. Also, if you ever see your healer get silenced, which you would know about because you're playing Paladin, then make sure you use a cooldown then. Alright, so that is how we play this pack. You can see me tabbing between the speakers. Remember the tech I talked about in your pugs. Alright, so next we're going to do this Despoiler plus these 2 plus one of the packs in the room Which one we pull completely depends on the despoilers pat in the room. We don't want to fight 2 despoilers, so we're just fighting this pack plus, I guess, he was just walking away from this pack, so we're fighting this and this. Also remember these despoilers do Shadow Claw on pull, that's why I have Spell Ward on pull. Another dungeon where short Spell Ward is very useful. For the interrupts here, there's 2 speakers and 2 howlers. This is like easier interrupts than the last pack, so it's just like 1 DPS on each howler, and then you can solo the turn speakers. And in a pug, I would say it's very important that these turn speakers don't go off on your healer. So I would be like setting focus to 1 howler and then shielding between the turn speakers in a pug to make sure my healer never gets silenced. So if your healer gets silenced and there's a despoiler, it's going to lead to bad times. Also do remember, Shadow Claw need to have a cooldown for every single one. To rotate properly, by the way, between these Shadow Claws, your first priority will be Ardent. Ardent is your strongest, quote-unquote, strongest defense because you can't die through it. I say strongest, but it's not really that strong. It's your most useful one because it has cheat death and has a low cooldown. Your strongest one is Bubble, and Bubble has the second lowest cooldown for some reason of all your defensives, so you'd prioritize Ardent, then use Bubble. If Bubble's down, then you kind of have to pick between Spell Ward, Tear, and Guardian. I would prefer to use Spell Ward in that case, and then Tear if there's like literally nothing happening and you know Tear alone will be enough, or you have like a small thing along with Tear. For instance, here we have Barrier, so that's why I use Tear. And then Guardian, I would say, is probably your last priority defensive wise. Here we actually overlap Tear plus Barrier plus Pain Sup because I wasn't quite sure how long the Barrier was going to last, I think. And I also see that Ardent and Guardian are both coming back pretty soon. So next we do this. It's Ardent on pull, and then since Bubble's down, it's probably going to be Guardian for the next claw. And then if you got another one, it'd be Bubble. Also, I'm out of mana, so this is pretty sick. I love mana problems as a tank. Stonevault is the dungeon that probably taxes your mana the heaviest. Don't be afraid to take a drink. By the way, there is a video on the channel on how to drink properly. I actually don't take advantage of it in this video because I didn't know about it yet. But it's involving mage food. You can get mage food from a follower dungeon plus marinated maggots and lets you double drink. We do take a short sip here. One other thing also, when you're drinking, you don't need full mana. You just need enough to survive the next encounter. This boss doesn't like challenge you that hard on mana. So I just drink to like not even 1 million and pull the boss. So remember when we said before the key started, we've already coordinated that the Enhance is killing the shards and DK is picking up the orbs. As a tank, the most you can do in this situation kind of is just guide the boss around to the shards and ping which shards you're going to. Also, ideally, you're moving the boss in a way that your group can all dodge the same way towards the shards. That way your DK can like pick up the orbs easier. So for those unaware, by the way, this smash is what spawns the shards. It's a tank. It's like not that hard. Just make sure you have like anything running or that you're full health. This smash is what spawns the shards. And then the circle dodge, unstable crash, is what spawns the orbs. So here's the circle dodge, where I'm actually keeping the boss towards the middle of the room so we can all dodge toward the same shard. And that way we spawn the orbs. By the way, remember I said the circle dodge spawns the orbs. We spawn the orbs all nice and neat for the DK to pick up. After that, we're just kind of dragging the boss around. As a paladin, by the way, especially if you have wings, Divine Guidance is actually a very strong hit. So you can use that to like kill the shard real quick if you need to. Just be careful that you're coordinating with your DPS so you don't accidentally get 2 stacks. In a hierarchy, if you kill 2 crystals at the same time, it's pretty much a wipe. And there, the DK had 7 stacks. We'll go back and show it. DK has 7 stacks, so that's why he's able to break this shield for us very easily. That's the fight pretty much. You just go on repeat. DK is really good at breaking this shield because his pillar is a lower cooldown than the shield. It's like 45 seconds. And he's also it's easily able to survive the high orb stacks. If you don't have a DK in the group, I think Enhanced Shaman is also not bad for breaking the shield because they can heal themselves with Healing Surge, which is empowered. And also if they have AG plus the empowered healing, then they're really strong in the shield phase. Alright. But in our group, we have the enhanced shaman killer shards, by the way. Alright, so that's this boss. Even past it, since the rest is pretty much just boss on repeat. Okay, on to the swing. So in this swing, there's only really one way to lose. There's two ways to lose, I guess. So one way is this loader. If this loader gets healed, it's over, but that's why we pull him with only one caster. He does the frontal, which is, just dodge, and he also puts the dot out, Molten Mortar. The dot is actually like what's really dangerous since it's not avoidable damage. If he picks someone that doesn't have a cooldown, they're probably going to be in massive danger. So you can watch out for that with Sack and Spell Ward as a Paladin. This pull is relatively easy because there's no Forge Hands. Forge Hands are the most dangerous mobs in here. For some reason, by the way, these Forge Hands are worth nothing. They're worth 1 count each. As you can see, we need 489 count, so that means this 5-pack of Forge Hands is worth less than 1%. That's why we're kind of just waiting here for it to patrol away. You can skip it with Mind Soothe. One other trick, by the way, that we figured out after, you can Hex it here to stop the patrol, and then Mind Soothe, and we could walk around on the left and just fight the next pack where it stands. We didn't think of that before this case, so that's why we're waiting around here. But now you guys all know the trick too. Once it's passed, we decide to pull this pack. This is next in the route. There's 2 Menders, so whenever there's 2 casters, you solo one, the group solos the other one as a Paladin. So the reason these Forge Hands are so dangerous, by the way, is because this Fracture debuff, it stacks up, so if you're fighting like 10 of them, then it stacks real quickly. If you're playing a tank class that doesn't have high parry, such as Warrior or Bear, then it stacks a lot faster, but if you have high parry, such as Paladin or DH, then it'll stack slower. There's only 2 of them in this pack, so this pack is not that hard. However, this pull has 3 of them. By the way, gathering this pull is very dangerous. That's why we Ardented very early. I also didn't have Shield of Righteous. Somehow I didn't die. Lucky, I guess. This pull has like 7 of them, which is why we make sure we have offensive cooldowns up. You're going to see this pack die very fast. If it doesn't die this fast, then you would probably have to kite it eventually. But there's also 3 Menders, so you don't really want to kite it, which is why I make sure I have all cooldowns available. The last pack was really easy. We also have double DPS cooldowns. Also worth noting, while usually you would want to bubble pretty early, like you want to go Ardent into bubble, so the bubble comes back earlier. In this pull, I choose to use Garden before bubble, and that's because bubble also drops the debuff stacks from these Forge Hands. And that makes it so that after the bubble, you're kind of safer, and during Guardian, you're probably not going to die even if you have a decent amount of stacks. So if this pack was still alive and I had no cooldowns and some stacks, I'd be kiting like this way. Consecrates those, works wonder here. You could also ask your allies to like use whatever they have. Like if you're a druid, they could use Vortex. Shaman can slow totem or stun, etc. Alright, we finish that. We pick up the buff. By the way, this buff has ridiculously short range. Everyone needs to be like basically in this room to get the buff. You can get it as a dwarf, any type of dwarf, or blacksmith, or warrior. So we pull these mobs forward. By the way, we skip these loaders. The loaders are very, very dangerous mobs, especially double loader, because of the mortar. This pull that's not really too dangerous for the tank. There's like 1 Forge Hand plus some concussive smashes, which don't hurt that much. What is dangerous at this pull is that if there's too many heals going off, then it takes forever. So the way we kind of manage this pull is that I solo the 2 that are in this pack, and the 2 behind us are like the responsibility of the DPS. The way I manage 2 of them is I set focus to 1 of them. I focus on Skull. I only kick heal, so random ally bullets going off are not going to kill someone as long as there's not too many. So I just have focus kick on this for the heal only. Then my shields are on another one, which are stopping all of his casts. And then for the DPS, I think they're just doing AoE stops on theirs. Alright, so that's this pack. Then we pull some tank hitting mobs into the boss. By the way, if you're not confident in this pull, you can pull those mobs into the previous pull. Although if you do end up having a kite because of it, then some heals may potentially go off. So we pull this pack into the boss. I have all cooldowns, so I know this is going to go easy. This boss's Tank Buster Igneous Hammer actually happens at a ridiculously high frequency and can kill you if you have no cooldown, or if you don't have 100% spell block up, or if you're not topped. Also, we're getting at the start some debuffs from these Forge Hands, and these engine speakers also hit the tank with Concussive Smash. So just make sure you have a decent cooldown. Fortunately, we're playing Paladin, so you know, Ardent is going to survive every Tank Buster, and so is Bubble, so we go Ardent into Bubble. The Forge Hands are already dead. For the next hammer, I think it was Eye of Tear plus 100% spell block. That's because I know I'm topped. By the way, on this boss, there's a lot of residual group damage from the exhaust vents. As a tank, you need to be careful because exhaust vents or Blazing Crescendo, this is the skill, are going to make your group really low. As you can see, if you have Tempered in battle and a Sacred Weapon out, this can also cause you to be low before the next Tank Buster. So be super aware of that. Finger on the land hands before Tank Buster happens. Especially if the cooldown you're using is Eye of Tear. Eye of Tear is your weakest cooldown. The rest of them can kind of... You'll probably live like no matter what your health is with Ardent, Bubble, and Spell Ward. But if your next cooldown is Eye of Tear or even Guardian, make sure you're not getting randomly chunked by just residual group damage or Tempered in battle. This hammer is just Tear. We follow the same priority, by the way, as usual. It's Tear, Ardent first priority, and then Bubble second priority. And then Eye of Tear or Spell Warding, you kind of have to pick. Tear is usually used when it's kind of not that dangerous, and then Spell Warding is used when it's actually dangerous, and then your last priority is Guardian. Here, for some reason, I use Guardian before Spell Warding, which I consider a mistake. Oh, I actually did that because I was... Let me see how I played this. Okay, I actually use Lay on Hands here because my health drops ridiculously low from exhaust vents, which is why the next one is probably Guardian instead of Spell Warding. But if I was smart, then I would have just used Spell Warding here and not dropped low in the first place. So yeah, do keep in mind, when the boss is casting exhaust vents, you can drop very low, finger on the Lay on Hands at all times, plus health up. That is this boss. I asked for Pain Sup randomly there, even though I still have Spell Warding up. I think I was like in my mind trying to save Spell Warding for an ally, but this boss hurts the tank so much, you probably are going to need Spell Warding yourself at some point. So I end up Spell Warding there instead of Ardent, which is another error, by the way. So every time you make a mistake, basically, it's one Pain Sup down. That's how I kind of see it with Paladin and Disc. And then we have Ardent into Bubble. Then if you got the next one off, it's Tear, and we win. You can do skip here with Sleepwalk or Mind Soothe. You just have to wait for the patrol to walk away. Then we've been skipping these two Honor Guards. You can see our DK coming off to the side here, pulling it off. That's because he has Shadow Meld. We also have Wardenstone in the Evoker, so he just pulls them away. Wardenstone's in, and then Shadow Melds. If you don't have Wardenstone, you can still pull them away. You just have to do a little loop-de-loop and wait for them to charge, and then Shadow Meld. If you don't have Shadow Meld, then you kind of have to fight them. I would recommend not fighting them with this full pact. I would just fight 2 plus the rock guy. When the rock guy dies, you just pull the rest of it. However, we do the skip. 2 casters again. I'm still in one, group still in the other one. By the way, you'll notice how this corridor is like a rectangle. This is the short angle, or short like way, and this is the long way. You want to bait these charges along the short way. They usually bait at range, so it's not really a tank thing. That way they don't charge like basically to Narnia, and you can still hit them as soon as they walk back in. This Rock Smasher's ability, Smash Rock, also hurts like unreasonably hard, even on the tank. Make sure you have 100% spell block ready for it. As for your cooldowns, usually you want to use them when the Honor Guards are hitting you with their Stonebreaker Strike here. That's basically the only time you're actually in danger. Here it is, Thornbreaker Strike, boom, we bubble. So that's this pull. As soon as the Rock Smasher is dead, we can chain the next pack. I usually wait for these guys to do like one other thing, so they're stampeding away, then I pull, so I don't randomly get stampeded when I'm not looking. Generally, I decide not to pull these till the Rock Smasher is dead, by the way, and that's because of Granite Eruption. I find Granite Eruption plus Totem being spawned plus Honor Guard to be a little bit too much for a group to deal with. So in this pull, there's the Stone Shapers and the Mender. The Stone Shapers are chain bolting you and spawning totems, and the Mender is casting Allied Bolt and the heal. In my experience, Allied Bolt doesn't really matter in this pull because no one else is taking any damage, and one Allied Bolt will not kill them, so we just let it free cast. The heal, however, is important. Obviously, you don't want mobs healing, otherwise the Thunder takes longer. So we have the Evoker assigned to the heal. I'm kicking Skull, and the 2 melee are kicking Square. As for your cooldowns, generally used when you know Stonebolts are going to be going off. Stonebolt does about half your health if unblocked. So any cooldown or 100% spell block will make you survive. Also, as a paladin, you can also tab to the totems and do a lot of damage to that. By the way, this Avenger shield that I just threw, I've thrown it like 10 times or more. It has never bounced this pack, so it's very convenient. Same rules here. I solo one, the rest of the group solos the other one. Be careful here, by the way, with the Rock Smashers. Rock Smash plus Stonevault going off can one-shot you if you have no cooldown and no block. So this pack is pretty much more of the same. Just kill the totems, interrupt your guy, summon your DPS to interrupt one other guy, and that's it. Next pack is pretty much more of the same. Make sure you don't get randomly one-shot. Interrupt your guy, rest of the group interrupts the other one, kill the Rock Smasher, kill the totems. So for this boss, I do like at least a little bit of a strategy. A lot of the time, most people when they fight this boss it's just pure chaos with everyone standing wherever. But I found one way to make it a little bit more coordinated. So I bring him off to the side here. That way when he does the Entropic Reckoning, we drop our poop like in this section. Then I'm going to move him like a little bit clockwise, and then we drop our poop there. Then clockwise again, we drop our poop there. You can also immune the dot, the Void Corruption, with Bubble and Spell Warding. You can also Spell Ward an ally. In this run, I'm Spell Warding myself because we're doing some like rescue strategy on the Enhance. DK doesn't need Spell Warding, and Priest is getting a free one from far away. Normally, if you're more coordinated, I could be Spell Warding the Enhance, but I wasn't like sure when the Enhance was getting rescued, so I decided to Spell Ward myself later. This boss also does like almost no damage to the tank unless you're sitting the dot, so that's pretty much where your cooldowns are going to be. I Spell Warding the next one. Also, you know, we drop poop here, then I move him clockwise, then we're going to drop poop, then move clockwise again. For the next dot, you'll notice I have it. There's 3 people with the dot and 2 portal spawn. As a tank, generally, you're going to be expected to like hold your dot while the DPS get their clears. Because, you know, you're a tank, the dot hurts you for less. So I let them clear first, and then I just use a cooldown and walk to this portal. One other reason, by the way, to immune the dot on yourself is that if you have to walk to a further portal, it kind of messes with the movement strategy for the boss. So there I had to move the boss like across the room. So we drop poop here, even though there's a spot like basically where we came from that's free. So we had to took up like more of the room with poop faster. Not the biggest deal because, as I said, this boss is killable even if you just full YOLO the poop drops. I just don't like YOLOing the poop drops, so I move them around in a circle. Alright, so that is the Stonevault. Thank you for watching. Good luck in your next one, and peace out.